What's up my loves, my name is Paige, this is Pages with Paige, and today we're going to be doing my July wrap up. So welcome to day 2 of VEDA! So excited. So today we're going to be doing a wrap up of the books that I read in the month of July. So my stats for this month was that I read 10 books, which equated to 3,589 pages, with my average rating being a 4.35. My average pages per day was about 116 pages, which is great. We love it being over that 100-page mark. Even if I don't read a lot, like 100 pages a day feels nice. And the average page per book was 359. So in that 350 to 400 range, which is pretty normal. In terms of genres, I read 1 classic, 3 contemporary, 5 fantasy, and a sci-fi. In terms of the format that I read them, 3 of them were physical books just by themselves, and 7 of them were physical with the audiobook combination, which is my favorite way of reading. So not surprised, this is still the largest way that I consume books. The age demographics was 3 adults, 1 middle grade, and 6 YA. So quite a YA heavy month. Wasn't bad, considering my ratings are higher. So in terms of rating, I had 3 5-star reads, 3 4.5-star reads, 2 4 stars, and 2 3.5 stars, which very happy with. There were 2 standalones and 7 series. 1 is part of a series, but I'm not counting it because all the other books have been written by someone else and I have no intention of reading it as part of a series. I think it works best being a standalone. So you could say it's a standalone, but technically it's part of a series. So that's why I'm just not counting it. It can be its own statistic. My biggest book was A Dance of Dragons Part 1, and my smallest book was The Fire and the Fortune by Tamora Pierce. My listening hours was roughly about 29.1 hours, and that makes a lot of sense because I wasn't able to listen as much because I was doing my master's degree and on placement, as well as wanting to catch up with BookTube. So that's where we've had a bit of a reduction. Normally it sits at about the 30 to 35. So not too far off, but can make a world of difference. Onto the books themselves. The first book I read was Blaze of Glory by Michael Pryor. This is the first in the Laws of Magic series. This was technically a reread for me, but I couldn't remember too much about the plot. So it was like going in with fresh eyes. I read this when I was a lot younger and really loved it. And again, I really loved it this time around as well. Giving it a 4-star rating. We're following Aubrey and George, who Aubrey has had a magical accident, and so he's using the laws of magic and alchemy to literally hold himself together. And I'm very curious to see where the rest of the series goes. I will hopefully pick them up throughout the remainder of the year. Not all of them, but at least make a little bit more progress because I don't want to forget about this to have to reread it again. I also buddy read this with Pixel Pots. I think I'll leave a link to their Twitter in the description box below. Next up, I read Beartown by Frederick Bachman, and I'm giving this a 4.5 stars. Honestly, I think the only reason I can't give it 5 stars is because it's about sports and I was so fucking bored. So technically this was a soft DNF. Aoife from Pretty Purple Polka Dots and I went to buddy read this sometime last year, and we both just ended up not being able to get through it at that time. I think I'd got 80 pages in, potentially even less. It will be in one of my previous videos. So I had soft DNF'd it. I knew that I was going to come back to it. I really enjoyed the parts that weren't hockey games. But the whole premise of this book is it's a cultural banding and a town building their whole identity around this one thing. How these players are treated like gods because that's what they need them to be. That's what they need to promote to have the best team possible. But then there's incidences. We follow a lot of different characters, and one of the town's girls has been raped by one of the players, and it's a confrontation of just everything. Small town vibes, and that work towards the negatives as well as some positives, and developing a sense of community, finding strength in those that support you. The quotes in this were bloody brilliant. A simple truth repeated as often as it is ignored is that if you tell a child it can do absolutely anything or that it can't do anything at all, you will in all likelihood be proven right. Oh, just some of these quotes are so poignant and really beautifully written. I adored the concepts and the execution. There were just components of the plot that I didn't care for, and it made it very hard to get into and to actually care about, because I don't care about sports at all. So it's a me thing, not the book thing. And if this had have been about any other thing, even if it had been about competitive gaming, I would have been more into it. So I know that it's a me thing, and this book is a 5-star for most people. Just for me, it was a 4.5 because there was just that little bit of unenjoyment in the beginning. The next up was my yearly reread of Matilda by Roald Dahl. I adore this. I read it every year, and weirdly enough, I've managed to somehow read it in alternating July and October, I think. So next year I'll be reading it in October. I just want to keep it going. It's a trend I didn't realize I had. Definitely love this, love everything. Also, really random fucking side note, when Matilda goes to Miss Honey's house, she makes a comment that Miss Honey has margarine, and she goes, oh, she must be poor if she's having margarine. I have had a stigma against people that use margarine, thinking it was a poor person thing, unintentionally, my entire life. I thought if you use margarine, you were poor. Obviously, as an adult, I would go and be like, what the fuck? No, people can just buy margarine. They just get it for the sake of whatever they want it for. It's like choosing to have whatever you want. And rereading this, I realized it finally clicked that this is where my prejudice had come into it. And it's the randomest fucking thing, but it has made me giggle profusely. Just realizing that this book has had such an impact on my life that I was judging people over their choice of butter. I mean, I was a kid. It was one of those things that just get ingrained in you. I have now learned that, and we're continuing on to just love the aspects of this that I continue to love. But still a 5-star read. And the next one was, I don't know how I feel about this. It's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. So this is checking off one of the 100 books bucket list that I mentioned in my mid-year check-in. That my goal was to read one, and now I've read 2. So very happy with that. But yeah, the story itself, I feel like a lot of classics, I'm not too stupid to comprehend it, but I don't have enough fucks to give it the attention that it needs yet. Because I know that I can comprehend text. Like, I've done extension 2 English. I am capable of being able to deconstruct a complex text. Do I want to though? No. So for the narrative itself, it was pretty interesting. I liked the whole didactic nature of the different systems, and I found it really interesting that it was set in 2021. That did my brain in, because was not expecting. Just one of those really weird things. I know that Amy from A Star Reads is potentially reading it in August. I can't wait to hear her review so then I can understand a little bit more. Just, you know, Amy's a very articulate person, so getting her thoughts and opinions would be great. So the next book, this one is a 4.5, and that is The Fire and the Forging by Tamora Pierce. So I love Daja's character, who is the protagonist that we're following this. The book before is following Triss. Being in Daja's head was fantastic. They are a exile from their tribe and considered an outcast. No one will speak to them because they are considered cursed, and in this we get to see Daja sort of find their footing and explore their magic and explore having an identity outside of what they've grown up to be, and sort of embrace their outcast title, I suppose. So yeah, really enjoyed this. I love Tamora Pierce's writing. I love her worlds, and I can't wait to finish off the Circle of Magic Quartet. This is also known as Daja's book, and I'll leave a cover for what you might know it as. Apparently they're different in different places. Next up, we had another 5-star read, and that is Soulbinder by Sebastian de Castell. I love this series. I love Kellen. I love Rikus. I love everything about these characters. I am really in love with this series. I just want to binge the rest of it, but I can't. And this is following Kellen, who is a spell slinger. We are introduced to him in the first book as someone that is struggling to perform their people's magic, and this is a lot further down the track than this. The world that is created in this is brilliant. The plot has some predictable elements to it, but most of the time it keeps you on your toes. And yeah, I really love this, and I want more. I want so much more. I got teared up in quite a few different spots of these, although it didn't make me cry. I was in my feelings. Next up is The Everlasting Rose by Danielle Clayton. This is the second in the Bells series, and I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed where the story is headed. It wasn't as opulent as the first, but that makes sense. I gave the first 5 stars. I don't know if the third one is happening. I would like it to. There is no date or title or anything for it, and it concerns me. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously can't say too much because this is the second and shit has gone down in the first, so this is following the aftermath of that. Next up we had another 4.5, and that is What Unbreakable Looks Like by Kate McLaughlin. This is a very challenging book to read. My soul died multiple times. So essentially Lex was trafficked as a teen and given the identity of Poppy, and in the beginning of the book the girls are rescued from this trafficking ring. So that starts off our feelings, and Lex's, how do I describe it, her journey of recovery, it was very interesting. I really enjoyed I can't say enjoyed. I was really intrigued in the way that her narrative went. If you do read the synopsis, it continues to explain what happens further on in the piece, which I don't know. I don't know if it would be more impactful not knowing. I feel if you have trigger warnings and it sort of relates into what happens with human traffickers, definitely be wary. I fell so hard for Lex and just wanting her to be happy and to let herself be loved. And there were so many quotes which I didn't tab because I didn't have tabs with me, and I'm hating myself for it because I can't go back through and find them like I've been trying. But the quotes have absolutely stuck with me, and there was one particular scene where her aunt stands up for her, and it was glorious. If you do read this or have read this, please message me. I want to talk about that scene because it was so bloody brilliant. But obviously there is a lot surrounding the circumstances of that I don't want to say. So yeah, I think the only reason I'm not giving this a 5-star is that whilst it felt realistic and everyone processes trauma and grief and pain and recovers in their own way, elements of it didn't seem that realistic, and that's probably the only reason that it lost that 0.5 of a star. This hurt. Okay, I will have a vlog probably going up either in August or September with my thoughts on the progression, and it doesn't have spoilers, but there's a lot of in-depth discussion. So unlike here where I've just mentioned the first half, I do talk about the second, and yeah, talk about that a little bit more. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Fantastic, and it's left me speechless, as most of these books do. Very, very powerful. Next, from that delight to this delight. So I read Dance of Dragons Part 1, Dreams and Dust. So my editions split up Dance of Dragons into 2, thank fuck, because I don't think I could have read an extra 500 pages on top of this in the sitting that I did. This took me 11 days to complete, which is weird. Normally I finish books in like 3, even if they are a little bit chunky, maybe 5. So yeah, this is the 5th in the Song of Ice and Fire series. There was a point in this that I was actually shook, and I don't know if it's because I forgot key plot points or if George is just fantastic. But yeah, caught me by surprise, that one. I think I'm giving this a 3.5. I'm just very over nothing happening. I think would be the best way to describe it. Like, lots of things are happening, there's lots of different fingers in different pies, and everyone's doing something somewhere, but there's no cohesive, conclusive anything. It was all just waffling along. I'm curious to see if part 2 gives me that action that I want, and so like having them split up is a detriment, because then this is lower than the other one because you're not getting that feeling of conclusion. I don't know. I'm scared to read the second one because then I have to wait for Winds of Winter, and I did it. I read it. Now we wait. And then the last book that I read in the month of July was Art of Volume 4 by Alice Oseman. I'm so happy I read this. So I was saying to Ash on the last day of the month that I'd finished my TBR because I finished Game of Thrones on the 30th, and I had a day. I had a day to just read whatever the fuck I wanted. And then I didn't read anything. So yeah, ended up picking this up at quite late at night, and I just read it all in one sitting. Had an absolute blast. This is following Charlie as he deals with some more serious issues and comes to accept those issues more, so it can be quite triggering. But the way that it was handled was so beautiful. I love that Alice Oseman normalizes seeking help, how to talk to friends that are going through these things, the normalization of therapy, the understanding that not all parents are as approachable as some, and to figure out ways to work around that, actually demonstrating strategies to be able to accomplish those things. Marvelous. Also, just Nick and Charlie's relationship is gorgeous, and they're little cinnamon babies, and I don't want the next volume to come out because then it's going to be over and I'm gonna be sad. David is a fucking dickhead and Tori is a fucking boss ass bitch. I really didn't like Solitaire, which is the novel based off Tori's character, who is the sister of Charlie in this. I don't know, I think maybe I should have read these first so then I had an appreciation for Tori's character, because I didn't really like Solitaire at all. I adored this. 5-star, just my whole heart and soul has been given over to these characters, and I'm totally okay with that. So these are just the 10 books that I read in the month of July, and I'm so chuffed with how well I enjoyed all of these. So let me know in the comments, what was your favorite read that you had in the month of July? I am so happy with all of my reads. I'm just back in the reading swing, feeling good about the things that I'm picking up, and I can't wait to keep the momentum in August. August is a very interesting TBR, so we'll see how that goes. So the code word for today is jot that down. I love this sentence, so yeah, I'm very keen to see how you all feel about it by the end of the week, because I had fun. If you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of this mess, I am making videos every day for the month of August, so feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of those, and I'll hopefully see you on my next video, which will be tomorrow. Bye!